Music's impact on our day-to-day lives may seem pretty insignificant. However, without even knowing it, we use music as a tool to distract, to focus, and most importantly, to express. Through the creation of music, people like Mo Egeston are able to express emotion and style through their music, and its impact grows. Today, we'll hear St. Louis pianist, bandleader, composer, and educator Mo Egeston's journey through St. Louis as a musician, along with his take on jazz and blues as genres, and what we can do to help them in the future to continue to serve as a form of expression for millions around the world. First, Mo Egeston from Mo Egeston's perspective.
My name is Mo Egeston. A lot of people call me Mo. My occupation is musician. Specifically, I'm a pianist, educator, and a band leader.
While Mo has performed in many bands over the years, the primary group he plays with is called Mo E All-Stars. While the main musicians in the band switch from time to time, nowadays, Mo E All-Stars includes multidisciplinary artist Asa Tinu, vocalist and lyricist Michelle Higgins, featured powerhouse vocalist Nikki Ellis, and the man himself, Mo Egeston. I myself just know Mo as a jazz player. However, there's a lot more story to tell about his musicianship.
Well, I'm not strictly a jazz player, but while I was working on my classical master's degree, I started to explore it in a more serious fashion. I had a pretty successful swing band that I was the kind of behind-the-scenes leader of with all these great jazz players, and realized that I had some work to do basically with my own playing. And so from that experience, I started to pursue it more seriously. Had a couple of great professors who put me on the right path, and I continue on that path. Teaching helps as well, and I'm still learning.
Before Mo began learning his craft though, and I mean way before, jazz started to find its roots in St. Louis. After the steamboat began to become popularized back in the 1920s, the jazz from down in New Orleans began to make its way up the Mississippi River, and lo and behold, we were one of the stops. Because of the big river, popular crowds began to hear this new, exciting music, and so jazz became a phenomenon. On the other side of things, another genre began making its way over to St. Louis: blues. During the Great Migration, millions of African Americans made their way up from the Deep South, bringing with them a different experimental type of music: blues. Both styles were deeply influenced by the history that predated them, and when mixed with St. Louis culture, created what was known as the St. Louis Jazz and Blues, which was performed in many places around the city.
So there's definitely a whole history of jazz in St. Louis that predates me. I'm old, but not quite that old. So we've had areas like Gaslight Square, where a lot of national artists came through and toured back in the 60s. We see a lot of blues happening in a neighborhood called Soulard. And then there was what was known as the Blues Triangle. Up until not too long ago, there were 3 vibrant blues clubs that were happening. That's not all happening anymore, but what is happening is we've got some organizations doing some great things. Kransberg Art Foundation in Midtown, the institute that runs the Bistro, which is Jazz St. Louis, and then we've got the National Blues Museum downtown. So there's an ebb and flow, but I feel like right now there's a pretty good support for everything that's happening in the jazz and related forms.
Although nowadays, clubs and other places like them are some of the only places to see jazz on its own, today we can find jazz in all sorts of places, even if you may not realize it.
You kind of hear jazz, even if you're not seeking it out, because as an instrumental form, it's background music in a lot of situations, which, does help move the form forward as people hear that. But probably the most is in other arts disciplines, like collaborations with dance, theater, and even visual arts. Kind of helps to get jazz into different areas and in front of different people.
So, now we've established jazz's presence in St. Louis culture, and we can move on to its impacts on the city. Here's Mo's take.
Well, we definitely have a deep tradition of artists that are from here that left and went to do great things. Miles Davis is probably the most prominent example in jazz. Clark Terry is up there as well. Miles was from across the river, but the region definitely still claims him. So when you have somebody that prominent, that does bring attention to the local players for sure. But what's been recent and great conversation is that the arts are being recognized as a source of revenue for the city, and different organizations are coming together to try to champion jazz in that way from a financial perspective. And so, the real dollar fact that you can benefit from having a thriving arts and specifically jazz scene is part of the conversation these days.
We've already established that Mo is a great jazz musician. In fact, the music that is currently being played in the background is a composition by Mo E All-Stars, Looking Down the Rabbit Hole. However, like any musician, Mo still has some goals.
Well, I want to get better, first of all. I just think that that's a really going to be from a personal standpoint, but there's always room to grow within this discipline. There's a lot of related forms, lots of things to explore, and it informs other things that I do. So selfishly, I just want to continue to be to explore and be the best player I can be.
Compared to other genres, jazz is one of the most flexible, and early on, that appealed to 1920s America.
Well, I think the appeal of jazz early on was the fact that it represented the melting pot that really is our country when it's at its best. Jazz had a brief moment as popular music in the swing era, but it's always been slightly off the path of mainstream. But the people that love it and appreciate it are its biggest champions. And so, if you're a jazz fan, you tend to be pretty passionate about sharing it with others. These days, I think it's happening more in kind of crossover situations with other genres, and that helps it also to spread into other areas.
Looking towards the future, jazz is a genre that without action may not be around for much longer in the popular ecosystem. Finding action to take can sometimes be a conundrum, but locating the problem can lead us to a better solution.
Well, St. Louis, I'm a longtime St. Louis, and so St. Louis definitely has some issues in terms of class and race and such, where we, have these divisions and separations. But music has always served as a way to bring those elements together and break down some of those walls. Jazz is a melting pot of African and European styles with some other influences as well. And so I think as a community, you embrace that type of music and you see people from all walks of life both enjoying it and also performing it. We need to kind of shift some priorities around as a culture and continue to value creative arts in all disciplines, not just jazz and blues, as a really, as an anchor of a successful society. So finding ways to continue the mission both through schools and supportive venues, that's really the necessary thing.
Today, through Mo's story and that of jazz musicians of the past, we are able to grasp a greater understanding of the complexities and struggles that jazz as a genre has. Thanks for coming, Mo. Any last thoughts?
Happy to be a part of it. Anything that helps to shine a light on the arts, I'm all for it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and remember to hit that like button and subscribe to never miss another analysis video. Here are my sources, and here is the permission statement. See ya. Are you comfortable with this interview being recorded and that my teacher and others will see it?
Yes, that's fine.